I think I am getting more boring as I teach the book of Revelation than I ever was in my life.
Why?
Boring.
Boring, yeah.
Why? Would you say
I'll tell you
that?
why. Now, I said that to say this. Because when I was much younger, I had so many more answers than I do today. As the more I have studied it, the less answers I have. The further I see that we are toward the end of time, but the less answers. I used to just pop those answers out there just like that because I just repeated what I heard from somebody else. But as I studied it myself, and as I see this, and I've studied many books on this, then I have less answers. This is what some people say. When I first started, and this is another thing. When a preacher is first hatched, he's like a wasp. He's the biggest that he'll ever be. When a wasp crawls out of the nest, he's the biggest that he's ever going to be. He's got all the answers. You get a first and second year seminary student, and you can't hardly teach a class for them. And the older ones, the ones that are postgraduate, what we call postgraduate, is that after you get a bachelor's degree and you're working for your master's degree and you're working for your doctorate, they're pretty quiet because they're trying to learn something. I was always really good in languages because I studied real hard. It wasn't because I was smart. I'm going to tell you that. If you've been in my library, you'll see that I have all the New Testament written in Greek, a Greek interlinear. The reason why I'm so good in Greek is because I taught it so long and because I've done so much of it. When you take and you copy all the New Testament in Greek, letter for letter, translate all of that, you know something, that's a lot of time, and you're going to learn by doing that. Okay? Another thing, and the same thing in Hebrew. You studied a lot. I had 6 years of Hebrew in class. I had 9 years of Greek in class, and I taught Greek here 14 years. Now, in that length of time, I had 9 in class. I taught Greek here 14. How much is 9 and 14? This guy just passed it.
23, I think.
23. All right, that's 23 years. Plus the other 20 years in between that I taught Greek. And how much is that?
That 23 years?
Uh-huh. Another
46?
20 years at least.
Oh, okay. 43?
That's 33 years.
43.
43 years. Okay. 43 years. That's a lot of time. Okay. So you learn something in that time just by simple exposure. As I've studied the book of Revelation, I've read everything that I could find on it. I've got charts up here. I want you to look up here on the chart. If you can see that far, you will see the woman on the beast. All right, riding the beast. You see the false prophet. You see the beast and Antichrist over here. You see the horseman of the book of Revelation. You see all of this. You see the idol with 666 on it. You see all different kinds of characters. Now let's go back and just think about this. Brother Mike, you asked me a question. You want to ask me a question on tape?
Which, okay, the beast, the false prophet, and
The Antichrist.
the Antichrist, one of them's, at least one of them's a human.
Okay.
This
Is what we call the unholy trinity. Now, how many gods are there?
1,
All right. But how many ways does he manifest himself?
3.
3. But how many gods are there?
1.
Okay. Now, we know that there's going to be at least one person on this earth that is the Antichrist. We have the religious system, which he sets up. All right. And we have the beast, and there, when we come into the Revelation where we talk about the horsemen, now, how many of those are there?
7, I thought.
How many of the horsemen do you see over there? One of them's
3.
white, one of them's red, one of them's
4.
black, okay, and one of them's green horse, horse of death. All right, these are the horsemen in Revelation. 1, 2, 3, 4 horsemen. Okay, 4 horsemen in Revelation. But how many are there really? Is that 4 different horsemen? How many are there? I don't mean to confuse you now. How many of those horsemen are there?
1.
Just one. He is appearing in 4 different ways. All right? Now the system. We have a revised holy, it was called the Holy Roman Empire one time. When We had the Roman Empire. Let's go back in history as we look. Go back in ancient times, and we have the Medes and Persians and all of that stuff, and then we have Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, how many years did it take him to conquer the whole known world at that time?
Oh, he's 30.
About 14 years, wasn't it? 13, 14 years.
14?
Yeah, 13, 14 years. He had conquered everything he hit, just about except for some of the darkest parts of India. All right? He had the whole world converted to the Koine Greek. I think God allowed him to do that so that they would speak one language. So when his Bible, when he got his word, the Word of God out, they would be able to understand the Bible, because the Bible was written in what? The New Testament was written in what?
Greek.
Koine Greek, which is the common universal language of all the time. Okay? Then we have the Roman Empire kind of took over the Greek Empire after Alexander the Great died, and it went to his 4 generals, and it never was the same after that. But then we have the emerging of the Roman Empire. Okay, the Roman Empire. And then about 300 A.D., we have a guy by the name Constantine had a so-called vision. I don't think that his, my own personal opinion about Constantine the Great, that he didn't even know the Lord. All right, we have a lot of people, oh, how great he was. I don't even know whether he even knew the Lord. From what he, from his profession of faith and everything that he had, he just saw this burning cross up there, and I'm going to go out and kill my brother today in the name of the cross, you know. I mean, that's what he's going to do. And then he, from that time on, he put a cross on his shields, on his men. And then he wanted to unify religion. Now, what is the Antichrist going to do?
Same thing.
He's going to unify religion. Okay? This is going to happen in the last day. What is the unifying structure of this religion? What is the unifying point? They all believe in a God, don't they? How about the Buddhists? Do they believe in a God? Hmm? Hindu? How about Muslims?
Yeah.
How about the Mormons? Do you think they believe? I think they believe in quite a few gods, don't they? Every Mormon is a god in Embryo. All right, but they believe in a creator, don't they? We all have this down. Now, what can you tell me one thing that all of these people do that are that is Brother Farrar brought this to my attention about 30 years ago, 30 and 40 years ago. What is something that all of these religions have in common?
God.
They don't believe in Jesus Christ was God.
Well, all of them think that
All but
Jesus
one.
was a prophet of some sort. All right, so what do they have in common?
You have to work.
Why did the church down there on Olive Drive, why did it change its name to the Olive Drive Church instead of the First Baptist Church of Bakersfield?
I used to go to that church a long, long time ago.
Why did it do that?
We want to pick up people from
Any group,
Any denomination?
any denomination. What is the one factor that is pretty much universal in many denominations, even though they don't call themselves that? The charismatic movement. How about it?
Not works, huh?
The charismatic movement. Charismatic. The Hindus believe in that. The Muslims believe in that. The Mormons believe in that. Almost every one of these believe in that. Now, if these gifts are of God, they got something in common, don't they? Brother Farrar said so many years ago, he said that he thought the charismatic movement was the binding of the terrors in the last days. That will draw all of these religions together. He said, now every one of them did. They did. Every one of them. All of them. So that's something they have in common.
This
Not only
charismatic
do they have that in common, but they all believe in miracles, modern day miracles.
Mormons do.
Now, yes,
What is this
Like
charismatic
that?
movement?
Yeah.
What is this charismatic movement? I ain't even heard of it.
the
tongues.
charismatic. That's, you know, Marilyn was reading the book there, The Shadow of an Indian Star, going back there. And Joel Paul, there was one problem with that thing back in there. There wasn't any Pentecostal churches going at that time when people was going to these so-called churches. They hadn't been started yet. It was fire baptized Methodists at that time. And it was these people that came over from Russia also, and the 1908 Azusa Street revival in Los Angeles. That's what all I... How many of you ever went to well, probably not all. Brother Mike, you may be. My mother is. I know. She's been there. I saw that.
Where?
A.A. Allen and all this stuff. Back in the old days when the tent revivals and everything. A.A. Allen. You didn't hear much of the Word of God preached. It was all emotion. When I was saved, in the little old Pentecostal church where I was saved, there wasn't enough preaching there for hardly anything. Fill the temple with it. But I was under conviction of God, I think, from reading the Bible. And I went forward that day, and nobody went down there with me except an old woman. My old step-grandmother went down there with me and led me to the Lord. It wasn't a preacher or anybody else. They were busy in the charismatic with that. Let's look at this 17th chapter of Revelation. Brother Mike, what do you got there? And Kathy, you got that new Bible broke in? All right. I'm going to let you take off tonight.
And one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, Come here, I shall show you judgment of the great harlot who sits upon many waters.
All right, here we are. And he came, one out of the seven angels. All right, one of the seven angels. One having the seven bowls. What are the bowls for? Something you can pour something out of real fast. Okay? And he spoke with me, saying, who's me there?
John.
John, the Revelator. Okay? And he said, you come up here, I will point out to you the judgment, the krima, of the pornes, pornography. All right? That's the word pornography. That's the word homosexuality. That's the word prostitution. All of it. The harlot. All right? The evil, twisted harlot. The great. The one sitting upon the waters many. Now, this is a harlot. We live in the church age today, don't we? In the church age, the administration of God's New Testament churches. The New Testament churches, when Constantine the Great came on the scene, they were New Testament churches. They suffered great blows from that church that became the church state, which became the Holy Roman Empire when it came up into being. The true churches really suffered. Some of those churches that were in that converted over to the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire. Okay? And then how did the Muslims think about Christians today? How do they look at Christians? You go over in the Middle East and you tell them you're Christians, what are you going to think about you?
Oh, they ain't gonna like you. They're not gonna like you.
They're not going to like you, but what do they think you are?
They're
A
heathen.
dog.
One of those crusaders that came to them back during the Dark Ages and beating them up. All right. When did the Muslims come into being?
What do you when they come in?
1100.
When did they start?
It was after 632.
9 to 1100.
I say 632 is when it
Yes,
started.
that's right. 600 and something. All right. You go over there in that mosque in Jerusalem, and you're going to see that thing goes back to 600 and something A.D. All right. They were in existence at that time. And from that time until what we call a modern time, they fought with those Catholics over there, chasing each other back and forth. As we were studying our DNA, on a chart from 1 to 10, like this, here's 10 over here, from 1 to 10, my percentage of mixed Indian blood, which is mestizo, all right, is 86.6%. Okay? 86.6. Then you go down here with all this other DNA down here, and you know what stands out real strong in this? You know what? Blood?
Yeah, I know.
What?
Arab.
Arab.
Because it all comes when three people, and the three people are Noah's children.
Yeah, well, we all come from Noah's three sons. We do that. But here I am way up here with this 86.6% or 86.6 on this scale. Now, this unholy Roman Empire and the the Muslim world fought for hundreds of years. What have you ever heard about the Spanish-style homes, the Spanish-style roofs?
Yeah, Spanish architecture.
Huh?
Yeah, Spanish architecture.
Spanish architecture. Is that really Spanish architecture?
No.
No, it's not. What is it?
Italy.
Moors.
What?
Moors.
It's Muslim.
Moors.
Moorish.
It's
The
French.
Muslims.
That's
The
what they-
Arabs.
But they got it from the French and the Italians because they were over there messing
No, but
with
wait a
them.
minute. Let me finish here, brother. The Arabs came into Europe, and the countries they hit the hardest was France, Italy, and Spain. And they mixed blood with them for hundreds of years. 400 years, basically, they ruled, fighting back and forth. So there's a lot of blood in the Spanish, the French, and the Italian. All right? And in my family, you're going to see all that. Over here into the New World, what we call the New World. What happened over here? What happened over here in this country? As you see the world migration,
9/11?
we're talking about the world order. Okay?
The Spanish.
Who came over here and discovered America? Okay. Now, don't read the American history books.
Yeah, they take all
What's a
kinds of
joke?
things. Leif Erikson?
Who discovered America?
Is that Leif Erikson? Is that who it is?
Yeah, the Vikings discovered America, and they left their seed here. Not only did they do that, but they took Indian slaves back into Europe. And the Finnish and people over there, you'll see Native American blood over there. And then, when the Italians came here, and this basically, Christopher Columbus, but they brought a lot of Spanish over here, and they went from coast to coast. And what did they leave here? The Spanish. They left a lot of seeds because those Spaniards went from one end of this country to the other, from Florida to California. What were the missions in California?
Well,
They were slave plantations, is what they were. They killed, they devastated, they annihilated. It was what you
Indians.
call ethnic cleansing of the American Indian on the West
That's
Coast.
what they did.
That's what it was, ethnic cleansing.
Stanislaw. What was it? Stanislaw. What's his name? Stanislaw.
Anyway, all the way, those missions, all the way from San Diego to San Francisco. Now, all of that blood was mixed in to the Indians here. And you can see that in DNA from one end of the country to the other. You will see that blood. But all of it goes back to the Holy Roman Empire. When they came over here, they stuck flags in the ground over here and said, "We claim this land." France, Italy, Spain, all over the place, even Russia, all claiming the land. Now let's look what it says here, 17 and verse 1. And the harlot, the great, the one sitting upon the waters many. What does waters stand for in the Bible? Waters. Come on, guy.
Nations.
Many people. Many people. All right? Many people. What does the word mountain stand for in the Bible?
Government.
Government. Very good. You guys are sharp. Who's been teaching you all this stuff? All right, 17 and verse 2. Getting all this stuff down, Kathy? 17 and verse 2. I'm going to have you read that one too. You're a good reader.
To whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immortality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality.
All right, 17 and verse 2 now. All right? And with whom they practiced fornication. They fornicated. The kings of the earth fornicated with this woman. Now, in the church age, what does Paul call the church? Brother Brett, what does Paul call the church?
What does Paul call it?
What does Paul the Apostle call the church?
That's a good question.
Now, what does he call it? Brother Mike? Mom, do you know?
I want to know when you say it.
What does the Apostle Paul call the church? Kathy, you know that. What does the Apostle Paul call the church? Huh?
Right?
The bride.
Oh,
That's the bride. That's his bride. Now, who's the bride of the fornicating kings?
nobody.
Huh? Who's the bride of the fornicating kings?
Yeah.
That's the harlot. We got the bride of Christ, which is the church, which is taken away now. And down on the earth is the bride of the Antichrist, which is the false religious system. Okay? The bride of the Antichrist, which is the false religious system, of whom they practiced the kings of the earth. They became drunk under the influence. The ones down-homing or inhabiting the earth out of the wine of her fornication. Out of the wine of her fornication. All right. They were drunk with her wine. In brothels, in years past and for centuries, they had drugs and alcohol. And they became intoxicated, inebriated.
I like the hunt.
Yeah. The old story about the guy walked into the bar and got so drunk he saw this beautiful woman there, and he woke up the next morning with her looking at her, and she was ugly. The drugs and alcohol make them look pretty. Okay?
We had to call animal cruelty when they woke up. I'm just playing, Jim. I'm sorry.
Well, Exodus 20 and verse 3. Exodus 20 and verse 3. What does it say over there? Exodus 20 and verse 3. The second book in the Bible. Genesis and Exodus 20 and verse 3. Exodus 20 and verse 3. You're already there, aren't you, Kathy?
Come on, Brother Mike.
You got to be fast like this. Go
Get
ahead.
this baby going.
You shall have no other gods before me.
And you will have no other gods before me. That's what God said back in there in the second book in the Bible. This false religious system. We studied this morning that the Bible was originally written in what language? The New Testament.
Hebrew. Oh,
The
New
New
Testament.
Testament.
Greek. Koine Greek.
Koine Greek.
Universal.
We talked about the Texas Septus, the Texas Receptus, the received text is what they call it, the Stephen's text. The Stephen's text was translated from the Latin. It didn't come from Greek. We have Jerome translating the Greek Bible into Latin.
So it's translated twice by
Yeah.
different people.
All right, it's translated from Greek into Latin, and then when they had the printing press, the
Back to
Gutenberg
Greek.
press, and all that stuff, when they translated the first one, they wanted to have a Greek Bible, so they translated from Latin back into Greek. It didn't have the Greek manuscripts. They didn't try. That was a shortcut. They just got some Greek scholars, and they translated from Latin into Greek. So we go from Greek to Latin, Latin to Greek. That'd be pretty good if they were the same guys, but they're not. They're 1,000 years apart. Over 1,000 years. And they came up with a Bible. But why did Jerome want to translate the Greek Bible into Latin?
Why? Maybe to find their errors. I don't know. To find out if they were lying.
Okay, who were the people that were reading the Greek? Everybody.
Right.
I'll make it short. Who were the people that were reading Latin?
Catholics.
Only the educated people. So only the educated people would have access to the Bible now. Okay? Only the educated would have access to the Bible. So they took the Bible out of the hands of the common people, put it in a language they could not understand. So they could hoodwink them with their false religious system. And then they just taught them, you got to do this to get to heaven.
And the Baptists fought against them. The Anabaptists.
Well, the Anabaptists fought against it, wouldn't accept their baptism or anything else. They became drunk with her fornication. Israel says, God said of Israel, He said, you went whoring after other gods. The book of Revelation talks about the world system as a whore. She is the whore. She is the one, she is the illegitimate wife of the Antichrist. Okay? That's who she is. She's the Antichrist's wife now.
So it's now.
And what happened in the Dark Ages with the true New Testament churches, they were terribly persecuted, weren't they?
Yeah, Dark Ages were not a good time.
No, they were a bad time. The Catholic Church persecuted everybody that believed different than they did. They had their Bible. They had everything. If you did anything differently than they did, you were a dead man, dead meat. There was one place in Europe where they went in there and killed Baptists. For 100 and something miles, there was a Baptist head, decapitated person's head on a fence post for 100 and something miles. That road It had every fence post on that road for 100 and something miles had a Baptist head on it. They went into the valleys of the Piedmont, the Catholic Church did up there, and they killed every man, woman, and child. They were hiding out up there trying to serve the Lord. Because they couldn't do it openly, because the Catholic Church had complete control. In England, in the Church of England, one time, now the Church of England at that time, when they had the King James Bible in 1611, and before that we had Bloody Mary. Remember Bloody Mary? Henry VIII's daughter, Mary of Aragon, Bloody Mary. However you heard of Bloody Mary. You studied history, didn't you? Bloody Mary turned the Church of England back to Catholicism, and she killed everybody. She persecuted everybody and killed them. That's why they call her Bloody Mary. And she left a trail of blood. The Catholic Church has left a trail of blood. There's a little book we got called The Trail of Blood, isn't there? A little history book that trails the Baptists in all ages and every century by the blood that was spilled upon them. By this world system, by the New World Order, at that time was called the Holy Roman Empire. And in the end time, we're going to have a revision of that unholy Roman Empire. We're going to have a revision of it. All right. 17 and verse 3, yes.
The Holy Roman Empire, they had crusaders, didn't they?
That's right. They went conquering and conquering. They go into countries and they take their little swords out and they would hold your head up there like this. You either be baptized or die. You got a choice. Go into church or die. And they dunk them down in the water. If they didn't...
I'd be alive.
Huh?
I'd be alive.
You'd let them dip, you would. By the way, that's the only thing. The Catholic Church hadn't invented sprinkling yet. But they dipped them. When Constantine the Great, when he was going out to conquer, he baptized his whole army because by swimming them across a river. They were all baptized in that river. He just got up there and said, "You're all baptized when you go and baptize the whole army," as they crossed over there to conquer. 17 and verse 3. Brother Mike, are you over there? Make good use of your good teaching. You're real closest to the camera, so it'll pick you up good.
And he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
All right, now we have a woman, a Ginake. All right? It says, and he carried me away into the Eramun, the desert, in spirit. And I beheld a woman sitting upon a therion, a beast. That's a swift-running beast, a swift, fast beast. Red. Kokinon. Red. Kokinon. Red. This red beast. Here's this woman. She's riding the beast over here. See over here, if you can see that far on this chart. All right? She's riding this beast. And look what it's got on here. All of the heads and all the horns. All the heads and all the horns. Sitting upon a swift-running beast, being filled with the names, the onomati, and the authority, by the way. The names and the authority of blasphemy. Having heads 7 and horns 10. Heads 7, kaphales. All right, heads 7. We have at least 7 nations, don't we?
Heck yeah.
At least 7 nations now. We have the woman over at least 7 nations.
We're over 10.
And this beast has 10 horns. There's at least 7 kings. All right? Over 10 horns. What's the word horns in the Bible? Kerata. We get our word carrot from the word kerata, which means carrot is a horn-looking vegetable. All right? Horns 10. All right.
What is it? What's the 10 horns?
Horns are authority. Horns are power. There could be 10 armies. These 7 nations could have 10 armies. All right? We're going to find out it's going to turn into 10.
And it's completion
10.
too.
Huh?
And it's a number of completion.
Yeah. 10 horns. 10 horns. Let me read what I put down here. Now this red, this cochineal, comes from Cochinos, page 235. It is a cochineal insect for dye, crimson dye, red. This red beast, all right? And it's the color of blood, all right? It's also from the helm oak, Caducus, Cosiferus, and it means red. The reason why it's red is what? It's been splattered with blood, this beast. Blood, the blood of conquering. And then it says blasphemious. Blasphemious. Railing. The word blasphemy, that means to say bad things about you. Say bad things about you. Terrible things.
Like he doesn't exist.
Huh?
Like he doesn't exist.
This is to defame your character. Now, when we're talking about blaspheming in the Bible, we're talking about usually blaspheming the name of God. So they're blaspheming the name of God. All right? With these 10 carrots, these 10 horns, that is. This is the same beast as found in Revelation 13:11, and possibly the same as the Antichrist beast of Revelation 13:1 through 10, Revelation 6:1 through 8. Remember, we had 4 horsemen. Are those 4 different horsemen, or the same horsemen?
You said he was the same one.
Okay. Incarnation of Satan, a man, yet every thought in his mind is guided by Satan, and every ounce of energy is given to him and controlled by Satan. We have a man. In John 1:14, how does anybody remember that? I know Brother Mike does. How do you say that in Greek, brother? John 1:14, how does it start off?
Kai.
Logos sarxagenitos, and the Word and the Jehovah flesh he became, and God dwelt among us, and we dwelled in His glory. Now God did that. God brought Himself into space and time in the person of Jesus Christ. Okay, but now, in the future, maybe even as yet, even now, there is going to be an Antichrist in this world that is going to be born of Satan. He's going to be the very incarnation. Satan is going to bring himself into the flesh of human beings.
He already did.
We have in the book of Enoch, if you read the book of Enoch, you find out there in Genesis, the 6th chapter, it says, B'nai ha'Elohim. All right? Sons of God. Sons of God usually in the Bible mean angels. Okay? And the angels are the sons of God, saw the daughters of men, and desired them, and they brought forth the Nephilim. All right? Whoever the Nephilim
Because
are.
they had sex with people?
Well, evidently they did, according to all the rabbinical teaching. They took that as, they believed the book of Enoch. Now, all the book of Enoch, I know that I've heard for many, many years, and I used to believe this too. I mean, you know, remember I said a while ago when I started the class that I've got real dumb as I got older? Because I realized I don't quite know so many things today as dogmatically as I did 40 years ago. Part of the mainstream, actually, of Christendom today believes that the sons of God were the faith line and the daughters of men were those that were not believing. All right? But if you look at it real closely and you look at the book of Jude and you look at the book of Enoch and you see what was going on and the angels that were disobedient and everything else, that maybe these angels did have sex with women and then bring forth a monstrosity of a race that God destroyed in the days of the flood. Okay? And they had trouble with them again later in the Nephilim were in the land when Israel came into the land and God told them to kill every man, woman, and child. He wanted them exterminated because they were Nephilim. When David fought Goliath, what was Goliath?
A giant.
Nephilim.
He was a Nephilim. Now here's another thing. Goliath either had 5 sons or 5 brothers. I've heard five brothers. But also it says in the Bible he had 5 sons.
I thought he had 5
I thought
giants.
there was 5.
4 sons plus him.
I thought there was 5
Because,
giants.
because
5 total.
5 total, all of them. All right, he had 4 sons, or else he had 4 brothers, one or the other. Now, I've studied that,
Did he have 6 fingers?
and well, he had 6 fingers and toes. All
Or does
right.
it say that in the Bible or what? Or
Yes,
where?
it does. It does that in the Bible, 6 fingers and toes. These giants, now you go through the Bible and you'll find out there's a lot of places that it refers to them. But it calls them the Nephilim, the fallen ones. Nephilim means the fallen ones, okay? Now, wherever they were, whoever they were, they could be an example of what Satan is going to do. We talk about Rosemary's Baby. We talk about, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was in a movie that's supposed to protect a woman that was going to bring forth the devil's child.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know what the name of it was. I just heard about it.
That's called the end days.
Yeah, whatever, the end days or whatever. But we know from the Bible that Satan is going to bring forth a child in flesh, and he's going to be the Antichrist. The Antichrist means instead of Christ, a false Christ.
So he
We
could
know
already
that
be
that's
here.
going to happen.
So he could already be here.
And
in the world.
He could be here today.
And he's Jewish.
Well, he's going to have to be Jewish to be the Antichrist. And
That's what I think too. Some people are saying it was Barack Obama.
I don't think he's Jewish.
No, I don't think so.
Okay? I don't think he's Jewish.
We know he's not.
All right. They thought for one, I remember so many years ago, boy, they had every way that Henry Kissinger was the Antichrist.
Or Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Huh?
Or Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Well, he wasn't Jew.
I know, but he's 666 in his little name.
I've seen them take his name and make 666 out of it and say I've seen the same thing with Henry Kissinger. Okay. We've heard if you've been around a long time, you've heard all kinds of stuff. Now we've got this Rosenbaum, this Joel Rosenbaum or something, with all his theories in this last time. But real exciting, ecstatic things are going on in the end times. Everything is extremely.
Was he a writer?
Yeah, he's a writer. He was Rush Limbaugh's writer for a long time. But he takes a lot of things and he sells books with it. Why, Harold Camping, he had the world ending in 1988 or something or other. Then he's got it. It's going to end in 2012 right now. He's got the day it's going to end. You hear all of this kind of stuff all over the place. But you know what? We aren't going to know what's going to happen until it happens. As simple as that. We know that there's going to be a Muslim world that's going to be fighting against the Antichrist nations. We know that Russia is going to be in existence. We know that China and Korea and all of those eastern countries are going to be in existence, Brett.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you.
Huh?
I forgot.
Well, all of these countries are going to be in existence because the Bible names them, doesn't it? Are all the players in position? Are they on the right sides today? Sure they are. We have the Western Bloc with Israel, don't we? The Antichrist is going to be over the Western nations. Guess what? America's part of that. We're going to be under the Antichrist.
Yeah, we will.
If we're in existence.
We're not anything now.
I don't think we'd be in existence.
America may not even be in existence. Who knows? How many of you ever known a drunk?
No.
A real wino?
About being one.
I don't know one.
Huh? I knew. Were you a wino?
No, I said I'll go.
I remember out in the backyard, old Gary Harwell and I were out there dug some holes, and we were playing in World War I, and we were throwing dirt clods at each other, and when they'd hit the hole, they'd say, "Fire in the hole!" You know, that's what they said, and jump out the hole in. My Uncle Bill lived out there in the back. My Uncle Bill was a wino. Sam Paul's grandson. He was a bad man. I tell you what, Uncle Bill was a bad man. He came out there, we were throwing this, he came out of that house, he said, "Who called me a wino?" And started beating the tar out of us, trying to kill us. All we did said, "Fire in the hole." But he had a guilty conscience. He said, "Who called me a wino?" What does wine do to the wino? When he goes to bed at night, the last thing he's thinking about is wine. When he gets up in the morning, the first thing he thinks about is what? Wine.
That's good.
He is totally controlled by wine. While a drug addict, when they go to bed at night, The last thing they're thinking about is drugs. When they wake up in the morning, is the next thing they're thinking about where they're going to get more drugs. That controls their life. The Antichrist is going to be controlled. Like the wine was controlled by wine, the Antichrist is going to be controlled by his father. By his father. Controlled by his father.
Oh, I was going to ask you something.
Satan has never appeared to man in a human form. But he will be clothed in humanity here instead. All right? He will be clothed in humanity. The incarnation of Satan, a man, yet every thought in his mind is guided by Satan, and every ounce of energy is given and controlled by Satan. All right, just hold on for a minute. Let me get through my little thing here, okay?
Don't forget.
All right?
It was that question a long time ago.
These are the same beasts that are found in these other places in the Bible. All right, Brett.
Okay, sorry, I got to ask your own opinion on something, so you can finish if you want, but I got to ask.
Well, ask me.
Okay, will you believe,
I'm ready for the
you believe
next
in the
verse.
Bible code or what?
What?
Is the Bible code real to you or not?
Well, there are some things in the Bible that are coded, but these people get a little bit extreme with that. They go too far with it. Human beings are extremists. This is like all these people that, when they write books about Revelation, all in and get everybody's attention about it, but they're extremists. They've gone too far. You know, the Da Vinci Code, all this stuff is the exaggeration of everything.
What's that? Is that when they got the cup on Jesus and catching the blood? Is that is that the Da Vinci Code or?
The Da Vinci Code was basically, it's a false doctrine about Mary Magdalene having a child and another child, another child. It's the lineage of Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Oh, like they had a baby or something?
Yeah, that's not true at all.
Right, I know.
There was really a Mary Magdalene, yes. And there's really a Jesus, but all the story about it is baloney. Jesus didn't come into this world to have children. He came into this world to save sinners. 17 and verse number 4. 17 and verse number 4.
I know, me neither. Yeah, I did, but I forgot.
We find out in Jesus' time that he gave us a lot of parables, didn't he? What's a parable mean?
Story of it.
A story that you cast beside something that's true. One time he told a story about a fig tree. He went by this fig tree and didn't have any figs on it. And he was hungry. And this fig tree didn't have any figs on it, and he cursed that. That's what we call a penal judgment. He cursed that tree, and it just withered up and died. Another time it talks about a man was working in a vineyard, and there was a tree there that never produced any fruit at all. He said, well, now let me dig a trench around it, water it real good. And he came back and he said, well, it didn't produce any fruit. Well, let me have one more year, let me dig another trench around it, dig it up real good and aerate the roots, and let me put fertilizer all around it and water it real good. So he came back the next year and it didn't happen. He said, cut that tree down. That's a false religious system. Israel was a false religious system that was represented by that. Now God is going to bring penal judgment upon this great harlot, the great world religious system. Her lover is going to be Satan in the flesh. That's her lover. That's who it is. Her lover. That's the bride of the Antichrist. That's the false religious systems in the last days. And 17 and verse 4, Kathy.
And the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immortality.
All right. And the woman, the Guinea, gynecology comes from that. And the woman kept on having been clothed. If you go back and you look at in the Dark Ages, go back in the Dark Ages, and you look at the Catholic priest and everything, and they're running around. Everybody else has barely got clothes on their feet or shoes on their feet. I mean, they call them underbinders, and that they just tied something on their feet so they would, rags, anything around their feet. And here these popes and the cardinals and the bishops were running around clothed in scarlet and purple and fine, fine clothing. And everybody else, they're taking money from them.
They
But
still got their money.
dressed like royalty. Dressed like royalty. Okay? And the common man had nothing. This is what it's talking about here. This is Satan's wife. And the woman, she kept on having been clothed thrown around. It means to throw around with purple. Porphyroon. All right? A royal color. Purple dye was extremely expensive. There was a Lydia in the Bible. Lydia was a dyer, was a woman that dyed purple cloth. She was the one that went out and picked out these shellfish, and they got this dye out of there, and she dyed this purple cloth. Usually these people, their arms and everything, some of them were just purple. Talk about purple pink feathers back in the 60s. Remember that? Well, these people were purple.
They were purple.
From the dyeing the clothes, they were purple. The Arabs loved purple clothing, and they would put this purple clothes on the women, and you take the cloth off them, and they were purple from this dye. All right, they were dyed by this dye. Woman having been clothed around in purple and scarlet, kokinon, purple and scarlet, and having been gilded, gold-plated. We got a gold-plated woman here. 24-karat gold-plated woman.
It's a Goldfinger, huh?
Gold finger, I like that. Gold-plated woman with a crucio.
Machine's popping.
All right. Thank you.
This is a red
I'm deaf in one ear and can't hear out of the other, as they say, so you have to help me on this stuff. All right. This woman's, she's clothed in purple and scarlet, and having been gold-plated. We got a shiny woman here, don't we? We got one that looks so pretty. All right. And stones present, litho timio. All right. Precious stones. She's got diamonds and rubies and emeralds all over her.
Nice.
And pearls, margarita. Look at that. Pearls,
Margaritas.
margaritas.
Bloody Marys.
Margaritas. The word pearl in Greek is margarita. All right. She's got pearls all over her. Having a cup, poterion, a cup golden, chrysion.
Right down your alley, man.
Golden cup.
Margaritas and Bloody Marys.
A cup golden in the hand, the cadre of her, being filled with, now this cup is filled with what? What's it say there, Brother Brett?
I don't have one in front of me.
You've got to get
He doesn't have a Bible.
Okay, what does it say? It says,
a cup filled with abominations. Abominations. And unclean things. Akartharta. Unclean of the fornication of her, of the prostitution of her. She prostituted God's religion. She is in total control of the religious world. Okay? This prostitute is. This unholy prostitute. This world religion. Here we have, today, we have the Lord's bride. And in the tribulation period, we're going to have the Satan's bride. This world system. The bride today is Christ's churches. And the bride in this period of time is going to be a one world religion of the Antichrist nations.
the Masons are going to run it.
It's going to be in all these nations. It's going to be the bride. That's the world system. This prostitute is the false religious system, okay? That's who it is. 17 and verse 5 now. 17 and verse 5. What do we got down here?
Yeah.
You got a book? Brett, you got a book?
Okay, let's go. Let me see it.
No? All right. 17 and verse 5.
Okay. Okay, 118 here.
17 and verse 5.
Okay, and upon
You
her forehead.
did know how to learn and read, didn't you?
I did one this recently.
Okay.
And upon her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of the harlots, and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk.
Oh, hold on right there. Okay, is that gone? Okay. And beheld the woman, yeah.
Can I keep going?
No, 5. 5 only. 5 only. All right, we're going to look at this. And upon the forehead of her, a name having been written. They used to take prostitutes out there and brand them.
Like a harlot?
Brandon.
Like adultery?
Yeah. They used to put a
Scarlet
red
letter.
letter on them, adultery or whatever.
Scarlet letter?
Yeah, scarlet letters, whatever they brand them. Okay? Having been written, mysterion. Mystery, mysterion. All right? We get our word mysterion right out of Greek. Mystery Babylon the Great. The mother of fornicators. That's what it literally says, the mother of fornicators. The mother of fornicators. The mother of much evil. The mother that produces nothing but fornicators. All right? The apple didn't fall far from the tree in this case. All of her daughters were fornicators. Okay? Babylon the Great, the mother, the mater. Look at that word, mater. Mater of the fornicators, the mother of fornicators, and of the abominations. The blasphemies, the abominations. The bride of the Antichrist. I wrote this here, the mother of all false religions, the mother of fornicators, the mother of religious confusion, the mother of lies and liars, the Tower of Babel, Hammurabi, 1728 to 1686 BC, Nebuchadnezzar in 600 BC, the mother of secret religions. The mother of secret religions. Seminarius, the high priest of the idol worship. Seminarius gave birth to a son who she called or claimed, she said, had conceived as a virgin miraculously. The son was given the name of Tammuz. He was considered to be the savior of his people, the false Messiah, hanging on to the messianic promises of Genesis 3 and the fulfillment of the promises given to Eve. All right, now here is this woman that really lived. This really happened, portraying the real Messiah. And the legend of the mother and the child were incorporated into the religious rites and depicted in many pagan religions, especially Catholicism. I was watching Catholic television the other day, and they were making all kinds of excuses why they worshiped Mary and venerated her. But the real story came right here. Idols picture the mother as the queen of heaven, with a baby in her arms. Throughout the ancient world, countries, religious rites, and cleansing, a priestly order surrounded the worship of the mother and child. Tammuz was said to have been killed by a wild beast, but was afterward brought back to life, a false representation of the resurrection of Christ. Now, then it goes on, a great spectacle, evil, and the epitome of satanic influence. And I wrote down here so many years ago, the chief priests of Babylon were crowned in the form of the head of a fish. Dagon, the fish god. Dagon was the keeper of the bridge between this life and the afterlife. Imprinted on these golden crowns was the title Pontifex Maximus. This really happened, okay, now. And printed on this was Pontifex Maximus. Where is that crown today? Pontifex Maximus?
On the Pope?
On the Pope.
It says, Fila
That's
Day.
right.
It says, Fila Day saw something. You know what I'm talking about?
Pontifex
It says,
Maximus.
Fila, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Pontifex Maximus. Isn't that his title?
It's a scumbag.
Okay. This title was used by the Caesars, then the Roman emperors, later by the Pope, now known as Pontifex Maximus. Confusion of smoke and pagan rites fermented in the wine of the Roman Catholicism until you see the great mystery religion today. God warned his people of old not to be tainted or mix their true religion with any pagan religions. And he did that in Ezekiel, he did it in Jeremiah, he did it in Exodus that we read so earlier today. All right, 17 and verse 6. And then we're going to quit here pretty quick. 17 and verse 6. Kathy, are you over there?
And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered greatly.
All right. And I saw the Gineke, the woman, having been drunk out of the blood of the saints. She's been drunk She's drunk with it. She's drunk with killing. Drunk with killing. One of my favorite movies of all time, one of my friends helped produce this movie. It was old Ross Dunham. He did all the lighting and everything on Moby Dick. Remember that movie, Moby Dick? Probably some of you haven't even seen it. You ever seen the movie Moby Dick about the great black whale? They made a movie later on about Jaws, basically from the same thing. But the great white whale, they went after this great white whale, and Captain Nemo, he went out there and they were out killing whales. And he called them in. He put the flag up to come in. They were out there killing whales and bringing them in. And he said, I found out where Moby Dick is from another king. Come in. They said, we got all these whales out here tied up. It's time to render them and everything. He said, we're leaving. We're going after Moby Dick. And he said, why didn't you come in? He asked one of the captains of the little rowboats out there. They go after the whales. He said, why didn't you come out? He said, we were drunk with killing. We were just killing and killing. The blood, it was in our blood. Our blood was just boiling with killing these animals. That's the way this Antichrist is. This bride of the Antichrist. They're drunk with the blood of the saints. Out of the blood of the witnesses. Look at that word, the martyrs of Jesus. And I wondered, having seen her, I wondered great. I was struck out of my senses. I was astounded at her. I was astounded at her ability to manipulate the masses. You look in church history, and you look how that the Catholic Church got in control at that time. In America, when the people came to America, over here, America was a duplication of Europe. They came over here for freedom. They wanted freedom. They came over here for freedom. And they came among an innocent people, a bunch of wild Indians, all right, that had democracy. And in these tribes, everybody voted. The men and the women voted. The women had the right to vote already, okay? They had a pure democracy in these places. They came over here, and they tried to make every state a state church. Every state. You could only believe and go to church, worship God, and the state. If you were in Maryland, you supported the Catholic Church. If you were in so-and-so, if you worked in Pennsylvania, you did this or you did that, and you were taxed a tithe. You were taxed 10% of everything that you had, and they gave that money to the state church. That's what America knew in the beginning. Later on, they had a constitution. They had a revolution. And they had a constitution, and then they had a Bill of Rights. Remember the Bill of Rights? And the afterthought was you had freedom of religion. After all of this freedom of religion, you could believe whatever you wanted. Well, the first colony in America that was ever founded that had freedom of religion was what?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. All right. Dr. John Clark and Roger Williams. John Clark had more to do with it than Roger Williams, but Roger Williams is given the credit for it. Founding a state in this continent that allowed people to have freedom of religion. But no others did. No others did. You could believe anything you wanted to there. Numbers 17 and verse 7. 17 and verse 7. Let's look at that one, Kathy.
And the angel said to me, why do you wonder? I shall tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns.
All right. I'm going to tell you the mystery, the secret. All of these secret religions, every one of them, all of that was incorporated in Catholicism. All the secret religions were incorporated in Catholicism. Even the secret language that the priests spoke, it was a language that not the common man knew, the Latin. And you know what? The Catholic Church is going back into the Latin masses again now. They brought it into English for years. Now they're going back to Latin again. That sounds holy, doesn't it? What the whole story was is to keep the people from knowing what was going on. And I said to me, and said to me the angel, why are you watching? Why are you wondering? And I shall tell to you the mystery, the mysterion of the woman and of the beast, the one carrying her. The beast is carrying the woman. The Antichrist is carrying this false religious system. And the one having the 7 heads and the 10 horns. This is the world religious system. The world religious system. Will America be in existence at this time? Who knows? Could we even be in previews of coming attractions right now? Could we even actually be in the beginning of the setup of the Antichrist kingdom? All the nations are in the right place. I heard people, years ago, I told you the older I get, the dumber I get. I don't really know everything today like I did back then. I've seen too many things come and go. But I know this. We're closer to the second coming of the Lord today than we were last week, I guarantee you. And we're closer to the second coming of the Lord today than we were yesterday. I know that. Are all the players in place? We got church history to study. We saw what this unholy Roman Empire did in the past, and we know that it's going to be revised again. It's going to be revived. Now, how about the 7 hills? The 7 hills. Rome is sitting on 7 hills, isn't it? 7 mountains, basically. What does mountain stand for in the Bible, though?
Government.
Government. It could be 7 governments. How many heads are there here? 7 heads. 7 governments. All right? And 10 horns. All right. They always look for the 10 common market nations in the world. The 10 common market nations. The Western Europe would be under these 10 common market nations. Now we talk about the euro.
For us, it would be the marrow.
Yeah. But it's called the euro. All of these nations are going to have one money in the end. I can guarantee you the American dollar will not exist when this happens. The dollar is going to be done away with. The American dollar won't exist. Under these nations, there will only be the euro. And that euro will not be cash. It will not be dollars. It will not be money. It's going to be a mark on your forehead and on your hand. And it could be even your DNA, where they could not mistake you. Everything that you buy and sell is going to be marked with your mark. You are not going to get a job unless you have the mark. And if you get the mark, you're done for.
Thank God, Jimmy. You're not getting a job.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns.
Oh my
Well, we'll finish there, and we'll start up in 17 and verse 8 next week, if the Lord spares my life.
He's sparing you, man.
I'm here at this moment. I'm thankful for that. I know what He wants me to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, pray for me. Now let's go out and do something eternal this week. What do we mean by doing something eternal? Go out and do something for the Lord this week. Go out and do something that's going to follow you to heaven. Do something that's going to follow you from heaven. All right. You have any questions? Now's the time for questions. Kathy, you got any questions?
No, sir.
All right. You may have more questions now than you had before. Maybe in more fog after this class than you were before it. Brother Brett, I let you get by this morning. You came even in on time this morning. He always comes in late, so I can't call him on prayer. See, the prayer leader.
How do you know that?
Yeah, I know he's good at that. I'm watching.
He's seen it happen a lot of times.
Yeah. Would you dismiss us in prayer, please?
Yeah.
All right.
Dear Father in heaven, thank you for all that you do for us in this great day. And we pray for Jim and Marilyn and their upcoming troubles they have. Marilyn with her cancer issues, and Jim with his, is it a thyroid, Jim? Tumor in his chest. We pray, Lord, that you get them through this and that you leave them here on earth so we can still gain information, so we can help the totalness of this country and the world get better through your word and through your words. In your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Well, I hope the Lord uses me a while longer. Troy Clemens back in Mississippi. What's the name of that place in Mississippi, Mike?
Pascagoula.
Pascagoula, Mississippi. He said, I don't think God's finished you yet. Got too much information there to share around. Well, one thing I've done, I've recorded most of it, so it wouldn't be lost with me. And I keep on putting out more of it all every time that I possibly can.